How you doing, Dan? Good to see you, my friend.
I'm very well, thank you very much. Yeah, long time no see. Really good to see you again.
Yeah. I was just obviously I think I mentioned this to you in text and stuff. I've been listening to your podcast, really inspired and amazed at, you know, what you've achieved. And like I think we met maybe like you mentioned 7, 8 years ago. Um, what you've gone from being a personal trainer to you've done modeling, and now you got your podcast and you got your coaching business. And admittedly, when I first met you all those years ago, when I was
Mm.
trying to run on a treadmill, and we started speaking about personal training, one of the things I noticed about you was you were an extremely personable guy. And as you can imagine, the obviously I've shed a lot of weight since then. But when I was in that shape, I had personal trainers in Virgin come up to me all the time offering their services, and I just didn't feel like they were people that I could work with. I found your approach to be completely different, but it was also natural as well. And you are actually, I turned 39 earlier this week, and you are the in all my life, you're the only one I paid for personal training sessions.
I'll take that as a massive compliment. Then
Mate, take it
that,
as a compliment. And you got to remember, I work in sales as well, so
well,
you're
is
not,
that
not
interesting
easily
thing. Like
sold.
when it comes to sales, especially when you knew me, I knew nothing about sales. So my
You're
approach would have
natural.
just been to talk to you, and that's all it is.
Yes,
And that's the thing. And it's something I talk about when I'm going into schools and talking about mindset, mental health stuff. People don't care what you know until they know that you care. And that's the thing
absolutely.
when I'm talking to people, and especially you back in the day. Like again, you weren't in good shape at all, and I could see that you were struggling. And I'm like, I can help this guy.
Yeah,
Let's go chat.
yeah.
And that's it. And like I said, it's quite funny how the less I was selling, the more I was selling. And again, it's
Yeah.
only now I realize how selling actually works that I
So
realized what I was doing.
yeah, there's two aspects, right? So selling is actually all that is helping people,
Mm.
which if you've got a natural predisposition to do, it's really easy to sell. Closing someone is completely different. And
Yeah.
that is just where I think you were able to. I think what made me feel comfortable is not just your approach, but you were really empathetic about the situation, and there wasn't that judgment. You weren't obviously you've always been in insane shape, but I wasn't intimidated by that because when
Mm.
you're overweight, it's easy to be intimidated by other people who are in shape.
Mm.
Um, but you identified. I remember you identifying where I may be struggling and how you could help. And we had a few sessions, but I think you obviously wanted. You're quite ambitious, right? So I think you got a better opportunity where you could really blossom and use all your skill set. So
Mm.
I think after about the 2, 3 sessions we had, that I really enjoyed, by the way, I didn't bother with any personal training after that because
Mm.
just couldn't find anyone that you can, because you've got that mentorship thing about you as well,
Mm.
and I think you need that, that
No,
sort
I
of.
agree.
So I've not since then. I've done it. I've had to do all of this by myself, really. Um, but I'll never forget that. I'll never forget how helpful you were, and you genuinely cared. So
Mm.
it's no
Still do.
surprise.
Still do. No, nothing's changed.
Well, this is it. There's no
Mm.
surprise to see you doing what you're doing at the moment. I think I met you in 2000, early 2014,
Mm.
and then you left Virgin in Nottingham. So what have you been up to since then? What's that journey look like for you?
So when I left Virgin Active, I then Virgin Active, and then I'm going to a place called M10. So M10 at the time was one of the top personal training companies in the country. So I hadn't been personal training long when you'd have come into contact with me. So I was at Virgin for 6 months, and then I can't remember back in the day, but Virgin, what you used to do is write like programs for people. So to come in and basically the fitness coaches would write programs. And long story short, the manager came up to me and said, "You basically need to become a personal trainer, or we're going to get rid of you because people aren't having personal training because they just keep coming back to you to get these free programs. So you basically need to be a personal trainer." So then I went to personal training, did my first personal training session. I basically felt like I'd robbed this lady's money because I had no clue what I was doing. So I
Mm,
then basically became obsessed with learning. Went on loads of courses, spent lots of money. And then 6 months later, I then got offered the opportunity to go work at M10. So it kind of shows you
right.
how quickly I'd sort of progressed. So went to M10, got into bodybuilding, got into modeling, as you sort of mentioned.
Yeah.
And along with that came a bit of an ego. So that environment, when you're working with some of the top coaches in the country, you start to get a bit of an ego if you're not kept in check. And I wasn't keeping myself in check. And unbeknown to me, I had basically a lot of underlying mental health issues. Say a lot. I basically struggled with depression, imposter syndrome, self doubt, all of this stuff that you can think that wouldn't go along with being a model and being successful.
Mm.
So I then ended up leaving M10, going and set up my own company, getting loads of transformations, building my career, building my modeling, smashing life. And then one day it all came crumbling down and I went into a very dark hole of depression. I ended up losing pretty much my entire business.
Wow.
I got myself into quite a lot of debt. And I then ended up moving back home with my parents at 28 years old. So it was a very big reality check for me. And it was that moment in time that I realized I needed to take some responsibility for my life. So from there, taking responsibility for my life, I then started to look at what had gone wrong. And the more I started to realize what had gone wrong, the more I sort of realized, wow, so many people are feeling the same way that I felt and don't realize this information is out there. So I basically went on a massive mission to sort myself out, get some answers. And then I realized that when it comes to fat loss, that was the missing piece of the puzzle that people were missing. People weren't actually coming to me for fat loss. What they were coming to me was to be happy, to be more confident, to feel better. And I will be talking to clients about mindset stuff, high performance stuff, all this stuff I was learning. And I realized that was it. This is the thing that I was missing. So I then basically started to shift my business model, and then I started to get even more results. Clients losing 120, 130 pounds, 80, 90, 100 pounds, like again, over and over again. So it wasn't just a one-off, it was happening quite regularly. Then I set up a company called the Prime Life Project, where I basically took the head coaching role, and I started to work a lot more on the mindset with clients because that was what I loved doing. It just talks to my soul. And then the coaches sort of dealt with the personal training side of stuff. So fast forward to where we're at now, I've got 6 coaches in the Prime Life Project, and I basically now focus on the mindset stuff. Basically, I'm a high performance coach, and I go into schools and organizations and talk about mindset and mental health stuff. And like I said, it is absolutely incredible to see the response that you get when you get a gentleman like myself going in and being completely open and vulnerable with their story. How open people are to talking about their own struggles. They're almost waiting for someone to let them know that it's okay to talk about it. So as soon as I go in, share my story, the guards come down, the walls come down, even whether it's kids or adults. And then you realize there's a lot more people out there struggling than you realize.
Yeah, and I completely agree. And I think when someone like yourself, who we can look at you did the whole personal training, you were, in same shape, and people think that happened by accident, but they don't realize the work that's gone in behind it. And recently, myself, like I've worked very hard to shed the weight, but um, the mental resilience that you need to start off with, and then that you build as you get better and better, and you become more competent. I didn't know a thing about weight training, but what I've learned in the last 3 months, in my late 30s, I sometimes think, damn, I should have really concentrated on this when I was in my 20s, because by now I would look, amazing. But um, now I'm more competent in the gym, which gives you a natural confidence anyway. So when someone looks at someone like yourself, when I first met you, it's like, boom, it just happened. But a lot of hard work went into that. I'm sure there were days where you didn't feel like getting up out of bed and going into the gym and doing a workout. You always feel better for it afterwards, right? Um, but everyone's got their internal battle that they're facing every single day. And I think why people open up to you is not only because you are a personable guy. I think if you were a coach in any other arena, you'd be really successful at it because you've just got that type of personality. But it's also because people look at you and say, well, there's this strapping guy, but he faces and he's had to slay the exact same demons that I'm trying to. And people do just open up, the floodgates open then, don't they?
Yeah, so it's more you got to lead by example.
Yeah,
And like I said, for me, it's the more I can sort of share my story and share what I go through. It's just helping people one person at a time. That's all you can do. Like you can't change the world in any way other than one person at a time. And like I said to you when I set my podcast up, the whole reason why I did it was I basically wanted to just help one person. I was like, I've got some information that can help someone. That's it. I just want to help that one person. That's all I'm trying to be. I'm trying to be the person I wish I had
mm,
sooner. So when I'm going to organizations, when I'm going to schools, I'm trying to be that person I wish I had talking to me
yeah,
because I had no one. And I was waiting for someone to come in and save me on this white horse. And that's not how it works. The
no,
only person that can save you is yourself, but you need someone to tell you that you can actually do that because for me, I just again I didn't have a clue what was going on, and that's the thing for me. There's so many people right now that are struggling and aren't feeling great, and they don't actually realize that they have all the power that they need to get themselves to the place that they want to be. So there's me just giving them that permission almost to be like, no, 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 you can do this. Off you go. So yeah, leading by example is a big thing for me, because especially when it comes to sharing my story, people just think that, you know, I woke up one day and I was super happy, and it's like, well, actually, no, I had to hit rock bottom before I had to rebuild myself.
Yeah. So sort of talking about that, you helping people with sort of the physique and on the mental health side as well. What in your opinion, um, I'd like you to talk a bit more about the connection between the mind and the body, and how you can't really mentally you can't be strong unless you are physically strong and fit as well. Could you talk about that a little bit?
Well, again, it's kind of they kind of go hand in hand. However, you can be mentally strong without being physically strong, because you've got to think when you first started on your fat loss journey and you were massively overweight. You sort of mentioned you'd put on more since I
Yeah,
last
yeah.
seen you, before you lost it all. To actually start the ball rolling, that requires so much more mental strength than you realize, because you have got such a long way to go. So you were actually a lot more mentally strong when you were more overweight than you give yourself credit for. That guy has actually come through a lot more than you give yourself credit for.
Mm,
So you can have a strong mind without a strong body. Now, you can't have a healthy mind without a healthy body, but a strong mind you can,
mm,
because you to really get the ball rolling and be like, I'm fed up right now with where I'm at. I
yeah.
know that the road's going to be tough. I know it's going to be long. I know it's going to be hard. I'm actually going to just start doing this now. That requires a lot.
Mm,
That is some big decisions to be made. So that means you are mentally strong. You have to be to make that kind of decision. But to actually have a healthy mind, you have to have a healthy body, because you've got to think like what your mind's made of. Your brain, again, brain and mind are different things. But again, your brain, how your brain functions, how it fires, it all comes down to the food you're eating.
mm,
So if you're just constantly shoving processed food down your mouth, not moving, the body's designed to move. As human beings, we are not designed to be sat down like we are right now in an office on computer screens, scrolling on social media. We're not designed to be doing that. We're designed to be moving. We're designed to be using our body. We're designed to be stretching, pushing ourselves. That's what we're designed to do. So if you're physically not moving, you're not going to be reaching your full potential. And that's going to be causing some conflict within your mind. There's going to be some internal conflict there, because you know you're not reaching your full potential. You know that you're made for more. You're sat there looking in the mirror. And again, this isn't about body shaming. I don't care what people want to look like. I am not bothered. I don't care. I'm not here to preach and say people have got to change how they look.
mm,
But ultimately, anyone that says they're overweight and obese and is happy with that, I have to question it.
yeah,
Because for me, it's like, you know full well that you are shortening your lifespan and the quality of your life is reduced. You can't do the things that you want to do. You know you're restricted. If you have to go on an airplane and ask for a seatbelt extender, you know that that's not great. You know these things.
mm,
But the problem is people don't believe that they can do it. That's the problem. They have got such poor relationships with themselves. They don't actually back themselves to make those changes. And that's the difference.
yeah,
And this is basically where I sort of come in and basically say, listen, right, you've got to be honest with yourself. Because at the minute, the more you're trying to tell yourself that you're happy, the more you're making excuses for yourself, the more things are going to get worse. The moment you actually take some responsibility and say, wow, I have really let myself go. The analogy that I use is like a derelict house.
yeah,
Like the derelict house, you love the house. The house is absolutely incredible, but you accept that you've kind of let it go to tatters, like it's become derelict, like it's run down.
mm,
You love that house so much that you want to actually change it for the better. That's what you're doing with your body. It's not saying that you don't love yourself. It's not saying, no, no, I want you to love yourself, but actually love yourself enough that you want to actually change it for the better.
yeah,
Because we see a lot about this body positivity. And again, I'm all for it, but don't allow that to become an excuse for you to do nothing. Love yourself so much that you want to actually become better, that you want to become fitter, so that you can be a better parent, so that you can be better at work, so that you can do all these things. Whatever it is that is your ultimate goal, actually just have that honest conversation with yourself, because when you actually have that honest conversation with yourself, you start the process into actually making the change that you want. Because the more that you lie, you can lie to me as much as you want. You can lie to your partner, you can lie to your kids, you can lie to whatever. It's the lies to yourself that cause you issues, because you look in the mirror and you know you're miserable, you know you're unhappy, you want help, you're desperate for it, but you're lying to yourself so you don't reach out.
I absolutely 100% agree. I think with me personally, I have been before you we met, I was actually slim. So I know what it's like to be slim and slender, then to be overweight. And for me, that was that was what caused me to take that journey, because the difference in the way that you are treated by others, when you're slim and when you're taking care of yourself, you get a bit more respect from other people, and as a guy, I think it helps you with in your dating life as well, because look, attraction isn't a choice, but these things do help you in your private dating life as well. But the main reason why you got to do it is for your own self-esteem.
Mm.
And when you can't,
I was going to quickly jump on that as well, because
yeah,
this is the thing. Like, your body doesn't define who you are.
mm,
Like, it does not define who you are as a person. However, as you sort of said before, if you know that you could be doing better with your life, you are not going to be showing up to dates, to work events, to social events as that best version of yourself, because you
absolutely,
know that you're living a lie,
yeah,
and you know you're not living to your full potential. But I want to make it very clear that your body does not define you.
no,
And that's a big key
but
thing. Like, although society will have you believe that it does, it doesn't. Like I said, you can be six pack shredded and be an absolute twat. Like, so it
yeah,
doesn't mean you're a nice person
I've
at
met
all.
a few of
That's the
those.
problem.
I've met a few
And
of those. Yeah,
me too, mate. Me
yeah.
too. 2 minutes. I didn't mean to interrupt you there, but I
No,
just
it's
want to
fine.
make that very, very clear, because I said people define their self worth with how their body looks. It's not that at all. It's
Mm,
like you said there, that self respect, that self confidence to know and look in the mirror, even if you haven't reached that goal yet. I know that I'm doing everything that I can to become that better version of me, mentally, physically, emotionally, spiritually, whatever it wants to be. That is enough for then you to act differently. You're going to be more confident. You're going to show up, and you're going to go on to dates and be like, "This is me,"
yeah.
and the person's going to see, "Wow, like this person's got loads of drive. Wow, they're really trying." That's how you get that confidence.
Yeah, yeah, you do. You become an inspiration to others as well. I think your body doesn't define who you are, but you can define what your body is, right? And I think it is indicative of where you are mentally. If you are working, like when I see someone who is overweight, but he's turning up to the gym every day, I've got nothing but respect for that person. And although they may be self-conscious, but other people who are dedicated to bettering themselves would also show that person a deep amount of respect. They'll understand that he's trying to, or she is trying to do something about it. I think if you just say, yeah, I'm big and I'm beautiful and this is me, that is up to you. But I think that's a huge cope. And I think you will regret it. It's all right to say it when you're 21 and you're still quite young. But in my personal experience, as I've gotten older, you do need your health. You need to be doing something. And I think the fact that what you mentioned is that as humans, we aren't designed to just sit and live a sedentary lifestyle. We're meant to be out moving. And when you get out of your head and out into the real world, you come home. I know personally, I come home a lot happier that I've actually gone out and done something, even if I don't feel like it. So I think that's a
That's the thing.
really,
It's about the health, though. For me, it's all about the health. As you mentioned there,
yeah,
it's not about how much you weigh. It's not about having six pack abs. It's not about that. It's about the health and understanding that if you have ridiculous amounts of excess body fat and weight, that is a massive stress and strain on your body, on your organs. So I'm not here to say that. I never say this to any of my clients. I'm not here to say you've got to be six pack shredded. You've got to be a size 6. What I'm just saying is, like, if you're looking at yourself right now and you know that you are unhealthy, and because you're unhealthy, it's led to you having excess body fat, just start to become more healthy, and the body will naturally find where it wants to sit. Now, again, you can be eating healthy and gain fat. Yeah, I understand that. But a general premise, if you just start to make a conscious effort to eat healthier, you will then want to move more. You want to be more active, and then your body will naturally find this equilibrium. It doesn't have to be as hard as people make it. The problem is people make it very, very difficult and very, very hard on themselves. And it's like, just like I said, just be honest. Like, no one's here to say that big isn't beautiful. Like, it's completely personal preference. I
mm,
don't care what you look like. It's no business of mine.
mm,
But just be honest with yourself. What kind of quality of life do you want to have when you're 50, 60, 70 years old? Do
yeah,
you even want to reach 70 and 80 years old?
yeah,
If the answer is no, that's your personal choice. But you've actually got to think that far ahead. And what kind of life you're going to have if you're 70 and 80? Are you going to be in a mobility scooter? Are you going to have diabetes? What's this like? What are the implications of the choices that you're making right now?
mm,
If you haven't thought about it, that for me is just what tend to get clients to think about, the long term effects of these choices, because that's what people do. As you mentioned, for your own personal experience, like, you didn't really care that much when you sort of in your late to mid 30s, like, but now it's like, oh, actually, yeah, I do really care. And you've done something about it because it's
yeah,
become important to you. And
yeah.
as you said before, if you figured it out sooner and someone had an honest conversation with you, or you'd had an honest conversation with yourself, it'd have saved you 5, 10 years of your life. Like,
Yeah. By the way, you produce some amazing transformations. I've seen them on your website, and I know you genuinely care. Have you personally seen a shift in mentality when someone's come to you overweight, and then the shift in mentality when they actually reach that transformation point?
So it depends where people start out at. So there's two camps of people. So there's the people, again, we're only specifically talking here about people that come to me overweight. So again, there's a whole other camp of people that are lean and want to get super lean.
Sure.
So there's two types of people. You've got the people that basically have been lean or in shape, like healthy, normal, as you say, and then got out of shape and want to get back in shape again, kind of like yourself.
Mm.
They're the ones that feel very, very disconnected because something's happened in their life that has led them down that path to basically get really out of shape. And again, we're not talking about gaining a couple of stone. We're talking about, again, 5, 6, 7 stone. Like they've really, really let themselves go. That is then really, there's something there which we need to identify, which most people don't do. There's a reason why that's happened. Something has happened in your life, emotionally, like mentally, whatever. Something has happened. There's a big point in your life. Again, maybe it's the loss of someone close to you.
Sure.
Could have been the loss of a relationship, like something bad. Could have been attacked. Could have been anything. We have to first identify what the hell has gone wrong, because something's gone drastically wrong for you to have piled on that much weight, essentially willingly, because at some point you could have stopped and you didn't. You kind of just got into this spiral and didn't realize. I say willingly, it wasn't like you were deliberately doing it yourself, but what happens is like people just don't stop. They've chosen to turn to food, and that's the difference. Why have you chosen food? Why have you chosen food as the comfort? Like what has been the cause of that? Because you've got to get to the root cause. It's cause and effect. So the effect is you've gained loads of body fat. Cool. Well, we need to get rid of that. And in order to get rid of that, we need to go back to the cause. We need to find the root cause of that, because if we don't, we're fighting against the wind, because I'm going to keep doing all this stuff with you. I'm going to try to get you in shape. We'll go to the gym, whatever it is. But if you've still got this underlying issue, like these emotional issues you can't deal with your emotions, or you've got something that's really niggling you, underlying belief, whatever it is, or this bad habits, whatever it is you've got, you're always going to go back to that. And that is something you've got to pinpoint, like what has happened and how can we undo that. You then also got the people that have always been big and then trying to get lean. You've got to make a complete identity shift for these people, because they don't know anything about food at all, and they see themselves as the fat person. They are fat. Their identity is, I am the funny fat friend normally. And then as you start to remove 20, 30, 40, 50 pounds, you are literally taking someone's identity away from them. They are now no longer the fat, funny friend. So then who the hell are they?
Yeah.
And they will literally have breakdowns, which is why you've got to guide them through this process, because they become completely lost. They have no idea who they are. So you've got one person that basically knew who they were, lost themselves, who got to refind again and figure out what's caused this. You've then got someone that's always been overweight, that's basically now literally becoming a new person. And that's the hardest thing that no one talks about. When someone's got 50, 60, 70, 80, 90, 100, 120 pounds to lose, you are literally changing someone's core identity. You are changing who they are on the most fundamental level, to the point where family members don't even recognize them. That is a massive head fuck for people, because they are stuck in no man's land. Because when they are not at their goal yet they're now no longer this fat funny person, when they're in no man's land, they will literally have an identity crisis, because they don't know who they are. And that's when you've got to guide them through that, and then start to ask, well, who do you want to become? Because you've now got a clean slate. Who do you want to become? What do you want to be known for? How do you want to dress? Because before, when you're doing like pushing 300 pounds, you were very limited on the clothes that you could wear, because you had to pick the 5XL and you had to get it custom ordered. Well, now you can walk into the supermarket and you can pick something off the shelf. You've got a lot more choice. How do you want to dress? How do you want to look? How do you want to show up? And that's what you're trying to guide people through. You're completely rebuilding their identity and the structure. And that is one of the hardest things that people don't actually take into consideration when it comes to fat loss, is the mental games and the mindset. Because you're completely changing someone's belief systems, you're changing their habits, you're changing their self-identity, their self-image, you're changing everything. So they're the two people that, again, are normally the hardest. But like I said, it's people that are either trying to completely rechange their identity, or the people have lost themselves, and you've got to figure out, and they've got to have an honest conversation, what actually happened, so we can make sure it doesn't happen again.
Yeah. You know what? We don't think about that at all, do we? That if it's someone who started off, who's always been overweight, how much losing all that weight can actually be a mind fuck. Because I think there's this notion that once you lose weight, la di da, everything falls into place. Uh, but I can imagine that really, really affecting someone and them really
It's
being
huge,
lost.
mate. I'm being completely serious. It's huge.
I can
There's got
imagine.
to be so much support there in place, because they doubt themselves, they completely doubt themselves. And again, especially, again, I've had this with a few clients where the reason why they gained, again, these are morbidly obese people. These are
Yeah.
morbidly obese.
Yeah.
We're
Yeah.
talking about they're morbidly obese, like they've lost 100 odd pounds, give
Yeah.
or take. Like a lot of these people got to that size as a protection mechanism. Something happened to them in childhood or in early adulthood, and they gained that much weight for a defense mechanism. That is their defense. That is their defense, so that people will not look at them, so people will not touch them, so they are completely invisible, so they are just oblivious. you then take that away, you're taking away someone's safety net. That is also something very, very dangerous, and people don't actually realize this. And this is what I talk about. Most of these, the ones that are women, it happens to men as well.
Yeah.
Most of these women had no idea that's the reason why they gained the weight in the first place.
Wow.
But when you start to do the work and start to unpick some stuff, it then causes them to realize, wow, I actually realized this is why I did this. Like this was a safety mechanism.
Yeah.
I wanted to be invisible, because what happens is when they start to lose the weight, people start to notice them. And they start to freak out. Well, why freaking out? We have a conversation about it. And then they realize that's why they gained the weight in the first place. Is this eureka moment? So then it's one moment in time that's completely crippled them and has controlled them. They are now consciously aware of it. So they are now controlling it. And they can change the outcome of their life because they're now aware of it. Something they've suppressed, they now bring it to the forefront and they actually deal with it. And they realize, I don't need this for safety anymore. I'm not that person. I'm in control. I am safe. I've got a good support network around me. I don't need this for safety. I don't need this for defense. It is okay that people see me. And all this, you break this down for them, and then it allows them to actually start living their life. And that's ultimately what it's all about. When you're that big, you're literally giving someone their life back.
Yeah, and you know what? It's funny, Daniel, because the same happens when you do pile on the weight. So when I went to 18.5 stone, my defense mechanism was actually hiding away from the world, not presenting myself. And I remember guests coming over. Like I was staying with my parents at the time, me and my ex-wife, and whilst we looked for a place for ourselves, and guests would come over to congratulate us, or you have family visit, and I remember never ever wanting to see anyone, and it was all to hide the fact that I'd let myself go so badly, and it's the same happens when you go from slim to being over. You do lose your identity completely, and you become someone. This is why I say I can't recognize that guy. I don't know who he is. You know, he was there for a few years, and then he just disappeared. But I can't envisage myself ever acting that way
but
ever
that's
again.
The thing, but you knew something different.
Yeah.
So you had something to pull yourself back to.
Yeah.
You could have that conversation with yourself to be like, mate, what the hell is going on here? This is not me. Let's snap out of it. Not quite like that, but it'd been a bit more harsh. But you can have that. But if you've never had that before, you can't even envision it. I have some clients, and it's like, again, losing 80, 90 pounds, and you look at them like, did you ever think you could do this when you started? And they were like, no. I'm like, well, good job I did.
Yeah.
I believe in them before they believe in themselves. And that's the thing. It's like you're painting that picture and it's believing like you can change. But again, especially if you've had it and you've lost it, you know what it's like to have it, so you can then drive yourself back to it again. It's like sports athletes.
Yeah.
Again, they're really, really good. They have a bad injury, and again, they basically retire. But then they want to come back into sport again. 9 times out of 10, they can pick up straight away because they know what it takes to actually be an athlete.
Sure.
Like it's them that they've not had an injury that's retired them. It's like Michael Phelps, who retired himself, and he comes back and wins again. He knows how to do it.
Yeah.
It's a case of all he's got to do is just turn that switch on again. But right, what the hell has gone on here? Turn the switch on, off we go.
Yeah.
Again, Tyson Fury disappears off the face of the planet, becomes morbidly obese, gets addicted to drugs, alcohol. Again, he knows what it's like to be a champion. Right, turns on that switch, has a word with himself. Right, this is not me. Let's go. Because you've got a set point. You've got an image of how you see yourself. So let's say you're at 20 degrees.
Yeah.
So a thermostat uses a thermostat in the room. So you're set at 20 degrees. Then what happens is you go up to 40, 50 degrees, which is what you did. You gained all that weight. What's then happened is you then woke up one day, it's like, nah, this isn't who I am. And then the air conditioning comes on, they push you back down to your set point, which is where you should be.
Yeah.
And that's basically what happens is now people come to me and they're set at 50, and I need to get their thermostat set to 20. It's their self-image. You've got this self-regulating system within your body, and you can't outwork the vision you have of yourself. So if you think that you are fat and you're always going to be fat, you can't break that.
No.
But you knew that you weren't fat. You knew that you were a healthy, fit individual who just happened to let himself go. So as soon as you were like, "What? This is not me."
Yeah.
And you probably said that this is not me.
No, every day,
So
every
cool.
day.
Bam. Then you snap into back. Who is you?
Yeah.
Whereas these other people, again, they're morbidly obese. They don't know. They're like, well, this is all I know. Right, we've got to create another version and pull ourselves towards it.
Yeah.
So you've got this image of yourself, and people aren't aware of the image. And again, it goes to finances as well. Finances, anything in life, like you've got a set point for how you see yourself, what your self-worth is, how much you can earn, whatever it is. If you're not aware of it, you will always go back to those standards because that's what you know. You've got to change the standards.
There is a correlation because, you know, I was constantly skint in those days as well. When I was overweight, because what it is I think what it comes down to, for me anyway, was it was indicative of a lack of self-control.
Hmm.
and that's all it is. So I had to really simplify it. And I thought, what defines me as a human being, as a man, is, and I truly believe this for everyone, what defines you are the things that you do in private when no one is watching. And
Hmm.
if to the world you're like, to your family, to your wife, to your husband, or whatever, you're like, yeah, I'm working on myself. I'm putting my calories down. But in private, you're eating unhealthy snacks, or you're grabbing a McDonald's before you go home. I, I did all of those things. I realized actually, I what all this is a lack of self control. It's very easy as you let yourself go physically, you let yourself go in all other endeavors as well. But the more I got into shape, the more I was in control, or I took control of finances, how ambitious I was, because you lose ambition and drive
Hmm.
when you start packing on pounds as well. Um, but all that's changed for me. And so, in a way, I'm glad I went through that, because I know that is not the existence I ever want to have ever again. So even when I'm feeling lazy, Daniel, in the morning, when I know I've got a packed day and I can't be bothered, I'm like, no, I can't let myself go there again. So that
It's
is the drive.
discipline. Discipline. It's all about discipline.
Yeah,
Like it's having that discipline for yourself, and like you said, it's what you've got to pass your own tests when no one's watching.
yeah,
So if I'm here talking to people about, oh yeah, this is what you got to do to like take control of your mindset, and then I do none of that stuff myself. Like again, every morning I read, I journal, I meditate. I don't meditate as much as I should do anymore, but again, I still meditate. I know when I'm not in a good headspace, I know what I go to. I go to my journaling. I go to my meditation. I've got all these things that basically I talk about. Now, if I didn't actually do those things, I'm then lying to myself.
yeah,
And if I'm lying to myself, I'm not being congruent. Again, that's not good. And again, the universe knows you can lie to yourself as much as you want, but again, you know what you are, and that's the thing. When you're lying to yourself, you know that you're lying to yourself, and it goes back to that self-respect, that the respect you actually have for yourself. Because when it comes to money, finances, all that sort of stuff, if you've got respect for yourself, you're going to have respect for yourself in other areas.
yeah,
You're not going to waste your money frivolously. You're going to actually be very diligent with your money where it goes. When it comes to connections, whether it's romantic, whether it comes to friendships, whatever it is, you're going to have higher standards for yourself. So it's actually holding yourself to that higher standard. Because if you don't hold yourself to that high standard, no one's going to hold you to it. So
absolutely.
once you again do it in one area of your life and you have the discipline in that one area, it then transcends over into other areas of your life as well.
Yeah,
Your finances, your fitness, whatever it is, nutrition, like relationships. And that's the thing I'm trying to say to people. Like once you get disciplined in one area and you hold yourself to a standard, that standard will then transcend into other areas.
yeah. And I think discipline. One thing I learned is it's one thing to be motivated, but to actually see it through, you do need discipline, and that means doing stuff when you don't feel like doing it. That's all that I put it down to. But I think you got to just keep your eye on the prize, and whatever that goal is, you got to reach a goal no matter how you're feeling. And
Mm-hmm.
that also builds competence as well, because you get better. um, each time I've gone to the gym, I've never felt like going, Daniel. I'm not someone like pushing weights in your mid to late 30s, getting into that habit. It's not the same as, so my cousin who I go with has been doing this ever since he was 17, 18.
Mm-hmm.
So he loves it. For me, I've got to go no matter how I'm feeling, but I always feel better for doing it afterwards. So I
Mm-hmm.
think you've made some excellent points that people can, definitely take note of.
Mm-hmm.
What I wanted to sort of go into, Daniel, is your own journey, and if you don't mind, perhaps some battles you've had yourself and how you've overcome them, what you discovered throughout that journey, which I know you talk about it a lot in your Thursday thoughts when you present
Mm-hmm.
them, which are excellent, by the way. But how, what drove you to overcome your own sticking points in life?
So the biggest struggles that I struggle with is myself. Like I'm my own worst enemy,
Yeah,
and I think most people are their own worst enemy. So for me, it's getting stuck into negative thought patterns. That is one of the biggest things that led me down a dark rabbit hole. It's listening to that voice inside my head, which will convince me that I'm no good, that I'm a waste of space, I shouldn't do anything. And again, we've all got that. We've all got that little niggling voice.
yeah,
The thing is, the most successful people are the ones that actually recognize it and tell it to shut up.
mm,
So you've got yourself. You can call it, religion calls it certain things, whatever it is, like the higher version of you, the better version of you, the spiritual you, whatever it is. There's a version of you, this better version of you, like the true, authentic version of you. You have to start listening to that version of you. You know the difference between right and wrong. You know your own personal standards. And what happens is you start to believe your own BS. And that's been constructed for years. So again, call it paradigms. So paradigms is a collection of your habits, your self-image, and your beliefs. And that's normally handed to you from childhood. So again, it's that little voice inside your head. And just listen to yourself. When you start to get successful, again, you mentioned it before about imposter syndrome. When you start to become successful, what's that internal monologue that you're having with yourself? Because understand, the monologue you're having, you are the listener. You're having a conversation, but you're having a conversation with yourself. You, that higher version of you, are the one that's listening to that conversation. What is that actual conversation, and where does that come from? That person telling you that you are no good, you're never going to amount to anything, you can't be successful. Who are you to be talking about this? Who's actually saying that? And then ask yourself, would I choose to be saying this? Would I choose to be talking to myself like this? And if the answer is no, then ask yourself, okay, well, who is then? Because for me, I had a history teacher that told me in secondary school that I'd never amount to anything in my life. And that was something that I would always say, like, all the time. Whenever I reached success, I would ruin it.
Yeah.
Whether it was in relationships, whether it's financially, whether it's whatever it is, I would ruin it. And it comes down to the fact that I genuinely believed that I wouldn't amount to anything because I was listening to his voice, and this voice was my history teacher. Obviously, it's me. It sounds like me talking, but fundamentally, where that came from was my history teacher.
Yeah.
So again, if you've been told by your parents, or play it small, you know, whatever it is, whatever this thing is that you've got to realize that you are in control of your thoughts. You can't control what pops up. They're just going to pop up out of nowhere. You can't control that. But what you can control is, do you actually become emotionally invested in that thought that's popping up? Do you actually start to listen to that voice? Do you start to listen to that thought? Do you get emotionally involved in it? Because most of the time it'll be negative. And what happens is it drags you into a negative thought cycle. And what happens is most people are walking around, again, you talk about the paths that people walk down, it's grooves. So if for 20 years of your life you've walked down this one path and it's negative, it's going to be very, very hard for you to try and forge another path. But that's what you've got to do. It's asking yourself, like, are you living the life that you want to live right now? And if the answer is no, you have to take full, complete responsibility for it. It's no one else's fault but your own. But then you've got to start to realize, right, well, why has this happened? It's happened because the thoughts that you're having are not congruent with the life that you want to have. You can't have an amazing, powerful life and have really negative, disempowering thoughts. If you think you're a loser, if you think you're a failure, you're always going to be that. But you have to start to question these thoughts. Where have they come from? Where have they come from? And what can you do about it? Because when you start to get a bit of success, it can be scary. And it's when people don't even try.
Yeah.
But for me, when you start to notice and question these things, and you start to get a little bit uncomfortable, it's asking yourself, oh, why is that? When that voice gets a little bit louder, I'm always asking, that's interesting. I'm actually now starting to push myself a bit more. I'm actually starting to earn a bit more money. Why is this voice getting louder, telling me that I'm a loser, that I'm no good? That's because I'm actually destroying this version of me. And again, the more you try and destroy something, the louder it tries to hold on to it. It wants to make sure that you don't let go of it. And that's the thing for me, it's just asking the questions. Ask yourself the right questions, because that's all thinking is, asking yourself the right questions. And most of us ask really disempowering questions. Our brain's like Google.
Yeah.
We ask it negative questions. Guess what? We get negative answers. Why am I such a loser? Well, you're such a loser because in secondary school you did this.
Yeah.
Why am I so fat and hopeless? Well, you're so fat and hopeless because you're this and that. And that's what we do. We then get the answers, and then we listen to the answers. We believe the answers, not realizing we've just asked really disempowering questions.
Yeah.
Why not ask ourselves, right, so I'm in a really difficult situation right now. What can I do to get back in control? Yes, I may be 50, 60, 70 pounds overweight. What can I do right now to get myself back in control? Who can I reach out to? What videos can I listen to? What gym can I join? Can I go out and get some steps? What things can I do to actually help me? You ask yourself that powerful, empowering question, you will get the empowering, positive answer back. But we don't know how to think. Most people have no idea how to think. And if you are one of the unfortunate people, which most of us are, I was definitely that person. If you are one of those unfortunate people that gets stuck in a negative thought cycle very, very easily, your life will not be what you want it to be. You have to take conscious control and actually realize how you're talking to yourself and the words that you're using and where they've come from. Because without that, you become a prisoner of your thoughts. And that's what most people are.
It's really funny that you mentioned that, because I did, well, back in, for my blog, Man in the Arena blog, I wrote an article, a blog on the, like in December before the new year, about it's entitled Saying is Believing and the Importance of Self-Talk. Yesterday, I actually, because, we're in this too long didn't read generation now, so people prefer to listen. So I actually made it into a podcast. I recorded a podcast, which I will be publishing. And I did a lot of research into self-talk because I find it fascinating. The fact that even if you've got loving parents, but as as a child, when you're a toddler and they tell all their friends and family, oh, you know what, he's timid or she's timid, she's shy, she doesn't like interacting with people. Your brain actually, it changes your neurological pathways, and your brain
Mm-hmm.
doesn't care whether that statement is true or false. It just acts on the strongest software that's being fed to it. And so you do grow up being timid and shy. Yet
Mm-hmm.
I know, so I've got friends and family members who, when they were young, their parents used to say, oh, he's really outgoing and really confident, and they grew up to be outgoing, confident people. And
Mm-hmm.
so I've got an app actually which I listen to for about 15 minutes a day. And there was an author called Dr. Helmstetter, I think his name is, and he wrote a book called What to Say When You're Talking to Yourself. And he's got an app saying which is called Self Talk Plus, and it covers different like weight loss, self-esteem, quality of life. And if you listen to that, even in the background, for 15 minutes minimum a day, over
Mm-hmm.
time you start changing. Like the way
Mm-hmm.
you do notice the conversations you have with yourself begin to change for the better. I
Mm-hmm.
just think people aren't aware. They just think
It's
that's
called
the way
auto
they are.
suggestion. It's called auto suggestion.
Yeah,
So basically, what you're talking about is when you're again affirmations, whatever you want to call it, like auto suggestion affirmations. Again, I'm big on them.
yeah,
People say that to themselves on a daily basis. The difference is they're saying if they're negative. So that positive affirmations that you're listening to, I'm making things up. It could say you're abundant, abundance flows to me, and whatever it is, and it's there playing in the background, and
mm,
you're like, yeah, yeah, and you're listening to it, and you're consciously embedding it. That's what people do on a subconscious level all the time, but it's for the negative. Yes, I am fat. Yes, I'm a loser. You're constantly there. So you've got to think your mind's like a fertile soil.
mm,
So when you're a child, excuse me, you have no conscious ability to think.
mm.
So as a child, you cannot think. That's why if you say to a child, the sky's blue, sorry, the sky's green, they've got no idea. They're like, oh yeah, cool, sky's green.
Yeah,
They literally just take it on. They're like literally. So all they're doing is the parents are planting the seeds, and the seeds are growing. There's no ability to accept or reject it. As an adult, you have the ability to think. That means that you have the ability to actually plant your own seeds into your subconscious. You can consciously choose to plant those seeds, and you do it through repetition. But people aren't aware that they can do it, yet they're doing it all the time. They're just planting negative seeds. And again, not religious, but in the Bible, it says you reap what you sow, meaning that what you plant will then become real. So if you're planting negativity and those negative seeds, guess what? That's what you're going to get in your life. So all this affirmation is all these auto suggestion affirmations, whatever you want to call it, positive self talk, all it is repetition,
mm,
because repetition is how the negative got there in the first place. How did you know your name? You knew your name because you heard it enough times and you accepted that.
yeah.
Same thing with all this negativity. So how do you change it? Through repetition. So you consciously now, as an adult, have the ability to choose. So if I turn around to you and say, sky's purple, you don't have to accept that. Now you can't see the sky here, so the sky may generally be purple.
Mm,
It could be a different time of day. You don't know, but in your head, you're going to be thinking, don't agree with that.
yeah.
But as a child, you don't have that ability to do that. You have the ability to choose and to think. So you can start to think and change this subconscious programming that you've got through repetitions. That's all that is. Autosuggestion, self-talk, whatever it is becoming aware that what you tell yourself, that will become your reality. So it's either going to be positive or negative. It can't be both.
So when you personally experience the sort of episodes of sort of negative self-talk, let's call it, how did
Mm-hmm.
that negativity manifest itself into your reality? How did it make you act completely different to the way you are now? Be
So I was an asshole.
Yeah. Did it?
So I've always been a nice guy.
Yeah.
At my core, I'm a nice guy. I always have been.
Oh,
I was
you're a top
generally
guy.
brought up
You're a
really
top
well.
guy.
Yeah, but so again, the thing is, even when I was at Virgin, I still had depressive tendencies that were kicking in,
Mm,
and what would happen is I had anger issues. I had anger issues. I had a massive ego. I treated people badly especially when it came to women. So I wasn't living in conjunction with the kind of person that I knew I was.
mm,
Kind of like you mentioned there, like you're a fit, healthy person, you become fat, and it's like this isn't
yeah,
me. That's basically what I was doing, but I was doing it on an emotional level
sure.
and how I was behaving. So that's how it manifested in me, because fundamentally I was just craving love. That's all I wanted. All I wanted was for someone to love me and people to love and accept me. And all I would do I would do anything for people to like me. But fundamentally, what I needed to do was start to love myself,
Mm,
because there was parts of me that I absolutely hated and I did not accept them. So what I would do is I would just suppress them, suppress them, suppress them, suppress them. And when you suppress something, it has to be expressed somewhere.
mm,
So then it'll come across as anger. I wasn't able to control my emotions. So again, I just wanted people to like me. I couldn't love myself, so I pushed women away. So you're asking how did this manifest in my life? It came across, I was basically a bit of an asshole. Like, not to clients, because again, I knew that I was a good person and I genuinely wanted to help people. That's always been my DNA. Like, that is me. Like, to my core, I'm a good person. But I was not acting that way. I was a good person, but my behavior was not in conjunction with that.
Yeah.
I'd lost my way a little bit. It's only when I hit rock bottom, I realized this is the universe, whatever you want to call it. I call it the universe. This is the universe saying to me, you need to start again here, because the way you were living was not right. You need to figure out where all this shit has come from and unpick it.
Yeah.
Because the way that I liken it, the mind's like a garden. So we've all got this garden. I can't see your garden, but would you like me to see your garden? Because you can tell me as much as you want that you're living this amazing life, but actually, if you show me your garden, I'm like, yeah, well, you've not looked after that for a while. It's like, there's weeds everywhere. It's not, you are not looking after that. And that was me. Whereas actually now I'm consciously gardening.
Yeah.
I'm making sure that if there's any weeds that are coming up, I'm addressing it. I'm making sure that I'm fertilizing it. I'm making sure that I'm watering things. Now, is it the most perfect garden in the world? Absolutely not. Do I still have bad days? Absolutely. The difference is I call myself out on my own BS. I call myself out all the time. And when I act not in conjunction with who I want to be, I call myself out. If I have an argument with my girlfriend, if I am in the wrong, I will straight away, once I realize, apologize.
Yeah.
What I meant exactly what I said, but my delivery was horrific. I apologize.
Yeah.
I meant what I said. It shouldn't come across that way. Straight away, just owning it.
No, there's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with
that. That's the difference. It's the communication, the art of communication, but it's the ability to call yourself out. Because what would happen is most people would rather be right. I don't want to be right. I want to be honest. I want to live in conjunction with who I am. I want to be able to sleep properly at night knowing that I've actually said my truth. I don't want to be right. I don't care if I'm right. I just want to I want to be in line with the person I know I am. Can I look at myself in the mirror and be like, I am actually living to the standards that I've set myself? And that for me is how I hold myself to that standard, and how when that little niggling voice comes in, oh, you're this, you're that, I can be like, no, I'm not. Because look at all this stuff I'm doing. Like all this stuff, you're basically collecting tickets for actually like, no, you can say that I'm this as much as you want, but here's the actual reality of the situation. The best things that my clients do is just journal. Just actually journal, because what you're doing is you're getting to a deep rooted part of you, like your subconscious. I call it free writing. You set a timer for 15 minutes. You're not allowed to let the pen stop moving. It cannot stop moving. What happens is you're going to be writing quicker than you can think. So then your subconscious is going to start talking to you. And then at the end of that 15 minutes, go back and read what you've wrote. And 9 times out of 10, you'll get to the core issue of what's going on. And you will realize you have some eureka moments. And like, wow, I didn't actually realize that my mortgage is overdue and that all this sort of stuff. And actually, I'm not getting a bonus. And that's actually what's bothering me right now. And that's why it's showing up manifesting like this. But now you realize you can then do something about it. Once you actually become aware of these things, you can do something about it. The problem is most of us don't ever go inwards and reflect. It's easy to just blame other people. It's easy to get jealous, envious, angry. It's easy to start gossiping, bitching, moaning. It's so much easier to do that rather than taking responsibility for your life and being like, what the hell can I do right now to take back control and move my life in the direction I want it to go into?
Yes, like I 100% agree. And this journaling, I've been hearing more and more about it. I've actually had moments where, not just off the back of because someone's advised me to do it, I have sat down and written and journaled, I guess. Sometimes I actually do like audio journals before I go to bed, where I'll just talk about things that are going on, and I'll have those eureka moments. Number one, it's like not to get too wishy-washy, but it is like this weight has been lifted off you whenever I've done it. But whenever I've written it down or done it in audio format, I generally feel, number one, I go to sleep a lot better. I have this amazing sleep and I wake up feeling ready to take on the next day. But I'm not in the habit. I know some people do it every single day, but again, it's sort of building that habit. But I like what you've said, because there's that element of taking extreme ownership of whatever's going on. And when you feel like you're in control of your life, I think you are definitely, it's just going to make you a lot more of a healthier person anyway. But what are your thoughts on taking ownership? What did you learn about that in your own journey?
It's the only way. The only way to live your life is to take responsibility for everything that you can. Now, there's going to be some people here that are listening to this that have had real bad things happen to them. Now, I'm not saying that you're forgiving people. I'm not saying that you're taking the blame away from that person. I'm not saying any of that stuff. But the more you start to blame people externally, people, events, situations have happened, you are completely disempowering yourself. You're giving your power back to that person, that event, or that situation, just to take responsibility, because that's gone. The only thing you can do right now is take responsibility for your life at this moment. It's the only thing that you are responsible for is your life right now. So take responsibility for it. Take responsibility for the only thing that you can control, which is your attitude, which is your thoughts, your feelings, and your actions. They are the only thing in your life that you can control. You can't control anything else. You can't control anybody else. You can't control how anybody responds. You can't control anything other than yourself. So start to take responsibility for your life. When you actually start to take responsibility for how you think, how you feel, and how you act, your life will completely change. Because the problem is people aren't taking control of those three things, and their attitude towards life is life's attitude towards them. They think the world's out to get them, so guess what? The world's out to get them. They think that all people are arseholes. Guess what? The world's going to show them all the arseholes they can see. Start to put more positivity out there, and guess what? Positivity comes back. And this is where clients look at me and they're like, it really works when you put this positivity out. I'm like, yeah, I know. Like, you do good stuff for the right reasons. There's so much stuff that I do that I don't talk about when it comes to charitable work, helping people out for free, whatever it is. And I do it because it's the right thing to do.
Yeah.
And when you do what's right and not what's easy, the universe will reward you. So I just say, take responsibility for your life, whatever that is. Like, whatever's happened in the past is the past. It's gone.
Yeah.
Learn from it. Pain plus reflection equals progress. If you've made some mistakes, if you've messed up, there's a lot of pain in that. Stop sitting in the pain. That is not helping you. Reflect, because when you reflect, that failure then becomes a lesson. You then move on and you progress your life. That's how it works. It's hard, it sucks, and it does not get any easier, but it's the only way for you to actually take control of your life is to actually take ownership of where you are at right now, because it's your responsibility. It may not have been your fault, but it's your responsibility right now.
Oh mate, I'm going to turn that into a soundbite. I think that was that was amazing. That was amazing, and 100% agreed. So Daniel, who and what do you turn to for inspiration? You know, we all human. Sometimes you have your amazing days, your not so good days. What keeps you going, and who do you turn to for inspiration when you need it?
I've got a few people I turn to for inspiration. The main one is, bizarre as it sounds, future me.
Awesome.
I've let's say to my journal every morning. I come into my office and I write down the kind of person I want to be, and I use that as inspiration because, like I said, there's days when I can't be bothered. And again, still to this day, like I'm still not reaching my full potential. There's been some stuff that happened last year that I'm still trying to get out of, so I'm still not firing 100%. But every single day, I'm just trying to win the day. I'm just trying to do the things I can do to move myself forward. So when it comes to inspiration, future me inspires me because I know that he's going to achieve some amazing things.
Yeah.
I've then also turned to books. I love reading books. It's a big thing for me. And I also get inspired by there's a lot of people around me that are doing better than me that don't even know that I exist. So they call my online mentors. Never seen them, never spoken to them. There's people I see online, podcasts I listen to, whatever that is. And it's just people are out there just smashing life. And I see that as inspiration because if anyone else is doing it, then it means I can do it.
Yeah.
And that's, again, also something, if one person, let's say, again, going back to just tying it around again when it comes to people being 120, 130, 140 pounds overweight, like if people out there have lost 140 pounds, guess what? You can lose it too.
Yeah.
And that for me is the inspiration. I'm just trying to be the person I know that I can be every single day. And some days it's hard. Most days I don't feel like it at all. And it's what I say to my clients. Like, I'm inherently lazy.
Yeah.
I'm inherently lazy. I'm not this person that's super motivated all the time. It's just building that discipline of getting up and doing the things that I know I need to do. And that's the thing for me. It's like, I know the life I'm trying to create. So I just every single day, am I just moving a little bit forward? And even if I'm just moving the needle forward just a little bit, cool, that's enough. And I don't give myself a hard time if I don't push it forward as much as I'd like to. I give myself grace. I understand that I'm a flawed human. I'm still working through some stuff. I'm not perfect. But actually, the more I realize how far I have come and the amazing stuff that is coming, then that's all I can do. So again, I know that's kind of a bit of a backwards answer to it. But for me, I don't necessarily look for any inspiration that's outside of myself. But I just like the fact that if other people are doing it, it means that I can do it as well. And there is some amazing people out there that you can just sort of see on Instagram and stuff and just be like, wow, cool. Actually, this person's doing what I want to do. But that means I can do it too.
Yeah, I'm very much like you. Look, if you can do it, I can do it. It might take me a bit longer. I might have to work a bit harder. But that's all character building, right? So
exactly. That's literally the word I use, character builder. I say that all the time. It's all about character building.
oh, awesome. So my podcast, Daniel, is more to help. It's sort of more in relation to men's self-development, because I've been on this journey myself. I don't claim to be an expert in it. That's why I have people like yourself on that everyone I can draw inspiration from and learn from as well. When it comes to there's a lot of talk about masculinity and the modern state of masculinity and things like that. From your viewpoint and your experience, what do you think the main issue is with the decline of men's mental health? We hear that men are more likely to commit suicide by the time they hit 50. What do you think those causes are?
I think for me, it's the fact that guys aren't taught to handle or deal with their emotions.
Mm,
There's a lot of pressure on guys nowadays to be this alpha male that's six pack shredded, that's earning millions of
mm,
pounds, that's got this amazing family life, and there's all this pressure. And for men, we're really bad at actually acknowledging our emotions and our feelings. And that for me is one of the biggest reasons why men struggle and men's mental health is so bad, because we can't actively open up unless it's down the pub. So down the pub,
yeah.
we've had a few drinks, and we start to talk to our mates about it,
Mm,
which again is all well and good, but then it becomes a bit of a laugh and a bit of a joke, and then we never actually get to the core issue of the problem. Whereas you get women, women are very in tune with their emotions. They have got no problem talking. When they're struggling, they reach out, and they are emotional beings. For guys, we don't really know. I say most guys are emotional retards,
mm,
because that was me. And when especially comes down to me being angry and aggressive, the reason why I was so angry and aggressive was because I didn't understand my emotions. I didn't understand how I was feeling. So when guys are feeling a certain way, when they are feeling low, when they are feeling lost, when they are feeling confused, those emotions are trying to tell you something.
mm,
Your emotions are like signposts. Again, we talk about cause and effect. The emotion's the effect. What is the cause? Why are you feeling that way? And it's normally because we're not getting some needs met. We've got these core fundamental needs. So again, for these guys, maybe they really value connection. Connection and intimacy is one of the big things. Yeah, the partner hasn't had sex with them for 3 months, and they're not communicating. They don't hug. They don't cuddle. They
mm,
do nothing. They don't see the kids. They're isolated at work because since the whole lockdown thing, they're now not going into the office. They're at home. So these guys that value connection may not even be aware of it. They value intimacy, they value connection, and they value all this stuff. They're not getting it, and they may not even be aware of it.
mm,
So they're now starting to feel a bit lost. They're feeling a little bit less than, or maybe it's a bit of growth. So guys, again, constantly, one of the things that their needs is that they want to be growing, developing. Yeah, they're stuck in a stagnant job where there's no career progression. They feel completely bored out of their mind. They feel like their life's not going anywhere, their relationship's not going anywhere, and they're just stuck and they feel stagnant. Okay, well, that can then lead you to feeling very, very depressed because you feel stuck and stagnant. But the understanding, the root cause of that is that you're not getting any personal growth in there. You're not growing. You feel stagnant. So you feel something. That feeling is coming from somewhere.
mm,
Figure out what that is. Just reverse it back a bit. And I feel guys are very bad at doing this. They put on this massive front.
yeah.
You've got to man up.
Yeah.
You can't show your emotions. You can't be a pussy.
Mm,
There's all these things where actually, for me, to actually be a proper man, a masculine man, is to actually be in tune with your emotions. You're in control of your emotions. They're not in control of you.
mm,
And that's the biggest thing. If you can actually step into that masculinity, if you can actually step into knowing yourself, this is who I am. These are my weaknesses. These are things I've got to work on. There's nothing more masculine than that.
yeah.
Actually understanding your weaknesses and actually understanding that you are a flawed human, just like everybody else. Don't try and be perfect because you're not. Don't try and be alpha because trying to be alpha, if you try to be alpha by definition, you're
You're
not.
not.
Just be
Mm,
yourself, because when you're yourself, you're your true authentic version of you. You show up as that authentic version of you. You understand your emotions, you understand your weaknesses. You can actually ask for help. That shows great strength and courage. There's so
absolutely.
much strength in actually asking for help. It's not a weakness at all. People see it as, oh, you're a pussy. No, no, no. Like, ask anybody that's gone through mental health and hit rock bottom, and you tell me again. To look at Tyson Fury,
Mm,
like winning the battles inside here is the worst. The worst battles is worse than any physical battle you ever face. Like the mental battles, if you can overcome those mental demons, they're the worst enemies that you can ever face. That's what, for me, it means to be a real man. Actually, stepping into that, like that masculinity, understand yourself, but it actually takes the time to, first of all, accept that you're struggling,
mm,
which guys don't like to do
mm.
because it makes them feel less than, not good enough. Accept that you're struggling, reach out for help, talk to the right people, and then actually start to do the work to process it and understand it's going to take some time. If you've been living a certain way for 20 years, it's not going to be overdone overnight. But give yourself some grace, give yourself some love, and I promise you it's worth it.
Yeah. Uh, I think the main part, the main takeaway is actually acknowledging you're feeling a certain way and then doing, you mentioned, actually do something about it because it is going to make
Mm-hmm.
you feel better. And
Mm-hmm.
that cycle is going to help improve your mental health and your mental state of mind. I think we got some guys that I know personally as well, and I went through a period. We do like to bury our head in the sand. There's a bill that
Mm-hmm.
needs to be paid. Oh, I'll do it later. You need to have a
Yep.
difficult conversation, which just because you don't want to have it, that conversation needs to be had in order to
Mm-hmm.
overcome. something, get something over the line, you want to go bury your head in the sand and not do anything. So you turn to unhealthy habits like video games all day, porn, uh, and then putting all the emphasis. I certainly went through this phase, was feeling validated by chasing women or how many women you could get. You go through that period. But as you
Mm-hmm.
get older, you realize is you're trying to chase some sort of existence where you're getting validation from an
Mm-hmm.
external source, be that a woman, be that a bar of chocolate, be that whatever, a parent. But you're not actually doing anything for your own betterment, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And I think as guys, we do just like to bury our head in the sand. If there's a problem at home, we don't want to deal with it, and then we convert that energy into something really unhealthy.
Mm-hmm.
And I know
Completely agree.
I certainly did that. That's when I started putting on weight. Was when I
Mm-hmm.
started living my life that way, you know.
Mm-hmm. No,
So
completely agree.
yeah, it's. What do you think men can do then? Specifically, if I came to you, I said, look, Dan, I'm 39 years old. I've been married, I've been divorced. I've had all these experiences in life. I've experienced low mood. I've experienced certain times where I've suffered through, a depressed state. And right now, I don't feel like doing anything, and my mental health is on the decline, but I don't know what to do. What advice, man to man, would you give someone in my position to help me improve that situation?
You've got to be honest with yourself. Like I say, it's kind of a summary of everything we spoke about in this podcast so far. Just be honest with yourself. You've got to have that honest conversation with yourself. If you can't have an honest conversation with yourself, no one can help you. You have to be honest with yourself first, because then when you're honest with yourself, you can be honest with the people. When you're honest with the people, they can actually come and help you. And a lot of people do actually want to help you. So if you are feeling stuck, if you are feeling out of control, the first thing you need to do is actually accept that you are struggling, accept that you are not okay, and accept that you can't do this by yourself. And that's absolutely fine. But then once you then accept that, you then got to ask yourself, well, where's this come from? What's caused this? Has it been a breakdown in relationship? Are you grieving?
Mm.
Maybe you feel like you're not achieving anything in your life. You have no goals. You have no purpose. Whatever that is, but you've got to talk to somebody about it. You've actually got to figure this out with someone. You can't figure this out by yourself. No matter how much you think you can, you have to reach out for help. No one can do this by themselves.
Okay. And would you give me certain, not gym exercises, but certain habits that I can try and implement into my life to help my mental state of mind?
Yep. So the key ones that I go to for people is just get a minimum of 7,500 steps in.
Okay.
Just get outside, getting some fresh air. I would recommend reading 10 pages of a non-fiction book each day.
Hmm.
And I'd recommend journaling at least once a day, maybe twice a day if you need to. Those three things, they're completely free. Just do them and I promise you it'll change your life.
Awesome. Awesome. Um, right. I want to touch upon, Daniel, I want to talk about the modern dating scene. How do you see the modern dating scene now? And do you feel there's certain things that men have to be in order to be successful within the modern dating scene? Because it has changed a lot. I'm in it right now,
Mm-hmm,
and it's
mm-hmm.
crazy out there. So,
I'm thankfully not anymore, but I have been for a very long part of my
yeah.
life. And um, dating is a minefield, especially when it comes to the apps and people on instant gratification, instant all that sort of
Hmm.
stuff. Like just swipe in, and again, if you don't connect with someone in the first 5 seconds, you just bin them off. For me, the best way of approaching it is just to again figure yourself out. You've got to figure yourself out, like who actually are you, what do you stand for, and what would you like to get out of a partner? Because for me, one of the biggest things I used to do was just go on looks.
Yeah.
It was all about looks for me, completely surface level. I didn't really care if they were a dick, didn't really care if they couldn't hold a conversation. Are you good looking? If you are, then I'm interested. And that got me absolutely nowhere. It's completely shallow. And again, all I wanted was other people to look at me and look at the person I was with and be like, wow, I want what he's got. That's literally what I wanted.
Mm.
And it got me absolutely nowhere. It made me more miserable, more depressed. I have had a lot of issues in my life when it comes to women, when it comes to sex. I'm not going to go into it,
No, no,
especially when we run
no,
out of time.
no.
But it's a massive thing for me. So when I'm talking about this, I'm talking from experience. I have been with enough women to know that you can sleep with as many as you want. You are not going to get what you
Yeah,
want from them. You
absolutely.
are not going to. It does not work that way. So when you're approaching the dating scene, when you're approaching, if you genuinely want a partner, this is not if you just want casual sex. If you actually want to find somebody, you have to figure yourself out. What do you stand for? What are your values? And what do you want from a partner? What do you need to know what you bring to the table and what they bring to the table? And when you're there, stop trying to paint red flags white. When you're there on a date and you know that this person is a walking red flag, stop trying to convince yourself that you can change them. Stop trying to convince yourself you can save them. Stop trying to convince yourself this isn't an issue when you know it is. If they are not compatible and you know they're not, end it there. There's no harm in being friends, but stop trying to smash a round peg into a square hole. It does not work. You need to know, what do you value from your partner? Do you value the family dynamic? Do you value that they're on time? Like, what is it? Like, what is the things that you're looking for from a partner? Because if you don't know this, I'm not saying you're going there with a checklist of 20 things, but you've got to have some sort of rough idea. So when you're there, you're kind of feeling, well, I know what I bring to the table. Like, I am trying to move my business to a 7-figure business, right? So I need someone that's going to support me. I need somebody that's not going to cause drama in my life. I need someone that's got their head screwed on. I need someone that's ambitious. If I then meet someone on a date and they are absolutely stunning and they've got no ambition, they've got no drive, they're an absolute bum, all these things, and I'm just like, they just love spending money. I'm just like, you are stunning, and I'll have a lot of fun with you, but you are not the person that I need in my life. You are not that person I'm searching for. And I can convince myself as much as I like that you are, it's only going to end one way, and it's not right for me. I'm the one that's going to get hurt ultimately. I think it's going to be them, but it's going to be me. So you've got to be honest with yourself. You've got to figure yourself out first. Don't bring your past baggage into current relationships. Figure it out, empty the bag, go with it with a clean slate.
Yep. Got to have standards. You got to have standards
for yourself. More importantly, don't have high standards for the other person and have no standards for yourself.
Absolutely.
What are you bringing to the table? What are you bringing? Don't expect other people to bring stuff to the table when you're not bringing anything. Up your game, and I promise you, the quality of the people you attract will be up as well.
I love it, man. I love it. Well, look, Daniel, I know you've got to rush off. Thank you so much for your time. It's been an absolute pleasure. Honestly, just before we close out, where can people find you?
So on Instagram, it's Daniel_James_coaching. And then the podcast is the Prime Life Project podcast. And it's on YouTube, Apple Podcast, and Spotify.
Yeah. Okay. Daniel, thank you so much for your time, mate. I'll speak to you soon.
It's been a pleasure.
Cheers. Been a pleasure. Take care. Bye-bye.